quick moment to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together here today. Please bless the words out of my mouth so they are to your glory, and please bless those who are hearing them. Amen. So, this past week, as some of you may know, was homecoming for the high school. Some of the high schoolers are still recovering from the dance that was last night. We have some sleepy people in the service today. And I have always loved homecoming. I love homecoming because it is great for anyone of any age, especially homecoming in small towns. Small towns is a great place to have homecoming. Because if you're younger and you're not in high school, you get to look at the parade and see all the pretty girls in their dresses and the handsome men in their suits, and you get to think of like one day, like I hope I get to be in the parade on a float, or I hope I get to be sitting in the nice convertible because I'm on court, and it's something you get to like dream about and you imagine, and it's such a great thing. And if you're in high school, you get to be a part of it, which is like the best part, because you spend the entire week with your friends, your classmates. You get to do things you don't normally get to do. You might get to stay up a little bit later than you normally are allowed to because it's homecoming, so it's okay. And it's a great, great time. And if you're out of high school, you get to meet with people you may not have seen in a long time. Or you get to reminisce on your glory days back in high school about when you used to rule the roost and how things were and how Auburndale used to wipe the floor with Winter Haven every year for homecoming, and that was the deal, right? That's what I've been told this past week all the time when people talk to me, like it used to be the deal. But you get to reminisce and you get to tell like how it was, and you maybe get to see some old classmates because they get to come back for homecoming, or maybe you just see people because you've been so busy, but you stop and you're like, we're all going downtown for the parade and the Bloodhound Bash. So you get to see people you haven't seen in a long time. And it's such a sense of community, right? Homecoming. You're coming home. You're coming to this place that most of you graduated from. Maybe not everyone did, but it's a sense of belonging. Like you are Auburndale. Like this is your place and these are your people and you belong with these people, right? And it's so inclusive, it's so great, and it's such a beautiful story. And I just love homecoming. And so I wanted to talk about it a little bit more today. And what a great story about homecoming than the prodigal son, right? Like, I mean, if there was an ultimate top 10 list of homecoming stories in the Bible, I'm pretty sure this would at least be in the top 10, maybe top 5, and like definite runner for top 3. And this whole chapter of chapter 15 in Luke is all about homecoming stories, right? In the first part of it, we see the parable of the lost sheep, where there's a shepherd. He has 100 sheep, one goes away, and he leaves the 99 to go find that one, and when he finds that one, everyone rejoices, and they're happy, and there's this huge celebration, right? And then the next story is the parable of the lost coin. This woman, she has 10 coins, she loses one, she searches high and low for this coin, and when she finds it, she gathers her friends together, and they all celebrate this found coin. And then we get to this third story of the parable of the lost son, right? And it's a little different than the other two, and it's a lot longer than the other two, but it has like some more meat in it, and I think it's so beautiful because it deals with people, right? We're people. We relate better to stories about people. I mean, we can kind of understand being a sheep or maybe being a coin and being found, but like, let's be real. I've never been a sheep before or a coin, and y'all might not have either. So we relate better to being people, right? Because people are people and we're people. And so it starts with this story. There is this man, Jesus says, and he has 2 sons. And the younger son comes to the father and says, Father, it's been really nice knowing you. I've loved this experience, but I'm ready to take my inheritance and hit the road. Right? Which is, sometimes I think, we kind of graze over that because we're like, okay, we've heard this, yeah, not a big deal. But really, what the son is saying to the father is like, hey dad, it's been really great, but I kind of wish you were dead so I could just have my money right now. Right? Like, brute, blunt, like that is what he is saying to his father. And if I was a father, I'd be a little upset. I'd be a little hurt by it. But we don't hear that. The father, he just goes and he divides his property, and his son sets off to a far distant country where he squanders his wealth in wild living. And it's kind of, there's a song, it says, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. And if there was ever a motto that this son had, that was probably it. Because he wasn't there for a long time, but he sure was there for a good time. So he squanders all of his wealth, everything his father has given him, and he loses it all, right? And so he realizes he has to eat, because we're human, we have to eat, we need sustenance, right? So he goes to be hired out, and he starts feeding pigs. And he's feeding pigs, and he is so hungry that he is jealous of what you feed pigs. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never really had the same appetite of what we feed pigs. You know, it's not like the greatest stuff. Pigs eat just about anything, so you can feed them just about anything, and it's not like gourmet meals. They're eating pods. They're not eating the great stuff that you want to be eating. They're eating what's kind of left over. So he is so hungry, though, that he wants to be that pig to eat what is left over because he has literally nothing. And then it says he comes to his senses, right? He starts to realize, oh man, I have messed up, right? Which I don't think this is an easy thing for him to come to, right? Because I will admit something, I'm a very proud person. I am also a very stubborn person. So sometimes I would rather live in my mistake just to prove a point than to admit I was wrong in the first place. Right? And that might just be me, like no one else is probably like that. But like sometimes I will just like live in my mistake to just admit, rather than admit defeat and admit that I was wrong and that there was an easier way to do something or a better way to do something. Take for example, a couple weeks ago, I went to Sam's to buy food for a fifth quarter. And I didn't realize I needed to pick up the flat cart, you know, the big flat cart where you put all the stuff on. I picked up the normal cart. And when you're buying food for what you think might be 100 people, that doesn't fill up a lot of space. And so I had this cart, and I filled it with just drinks alone. And so I was like, oh man, I have no more room for anything else right now. But I was like, but I am not going to go to the front and switch carts, because I'm not going to be that person, right? So instead of doing the easy thing and switching carts and just admitting my defeat and admitting I was wrong or I made a mistake, I pushed one cart while I drug another cart behind me through Sam's Club, looking like that crazy person that you see on the websites, the people of Walmart and Sam's Club, because I did not want to admit I was wrong and I needed to change carts. And so I'm pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling, and people are just watching this happen, and I'm just like living in this because I'd rather not come to my senses and admit I'm wrong, right? But the son, he finally admits he's wrong, right? And so he comes to his senses. And so I don't think he just comes to his senses on his own, right? We're Methodists here. We kind of know this guy named John Wesley. Maybe not. But, you know, John Wesley had this idea about grace and how grace is threefold, and he had this idea about prevenient grace. And if you have not been in a confirmation class recently or a new membership class recently, it's okay. I'll explain it. We're all good here, right? So like this idea of prevenient grace, it says that God is actively present and moving in our lives at all times, right? Like God is moving, God is working, God is doing his thing, and it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter what y'all do, it doesn't matter what any one of us do. God is still working and moving and giving us this grace, right? It's a gift we can receive at any time. We can always say, no thank you, not right now, but it's always there for us, right? And we can choose to work with God, or we can choose to be like on the sidelines and say, no, God, I'm good right now. I don't want to be moved like that, right? But God is still working and God is still moving. So if he taps you and you're like, I'm good, God, not right now, he's going to tap someone else because God is working and moving. And when I read this, it reminds me of this, right? Because I would like to think this son was a little proud, right? He did like the biggest no-no to his dad. He like told him, I'd rather have you dead so I can have my inheritance right now than just like live with you and work with you and do all those things. He lost thing, and then he's eating, or he's jealous of what the pigs get to eat. He's in like the lowest of the low places. And I mean, he might be still a little proud, he might be a little humbled, but I think it takes a lot more than just him to be like, you know what, I messed up, right? Because like, even as people, we still have that pride level at some point. Even if you're like, you're at rock bottom, dude, just ask for help. You're like, no, I don't know. So I feel like God is still working on him in this moment. So he decides, well, I'm being dumb. I'm being absolutely dumb. My father's hired hands, they get fed so much so that they even have stuff left over. They have plenty. They're not starving out here. There's not a famine over there. Like, what am I doing? So he decides to go home. And I'm sure he's working on a very great speech, because that's what I would be doing as I'm walking home, because I'm sure he's not getting a ride because he has no money for that. So he's probably working on a very great apology speech that he hopes might land somewhere, because he's not asking to be accepted as a son again. He's just wanting to be a hired hand. He just wants to work at this point. So I'm sure he's working on that speech as he's walking, right? And so, verse 20, I want to read again. It says, so he got up and he went to his father. And pay attention right here. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. And he ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him. Right? So the son's walking home, he's working on his speech, he's saying, you know, I'm really sorry, like what can I say to like make it land? So like my father's like, okay, I accept you back, you can work for me. He's working on it. But his father, when he's still far off, like not just up the driveway far off, but like far off, like in town, so kind of far off. His father sees him. And I don't think in the story, Jesus is just telling about like visually sees him. I think Jesus is saying more that he sees him, right? The father sees him not as this skinny boy, not as someone who's filthy, not as someone who probably reeks, right? My mom would always tell me this story about when she worked in a newspaper when she was either in college or fresh out of college, and how there was a pig farmer that would come into the newspaper every now and then, and she knew he was there not because she saw him, but because she often smelt him before he came in, right? And sometimes when you hang out around farm animals, you smell, right? And back then they didn't have the beautiful, fun soaps and shampoos that we have now that kind of mask it, or deodorant, all those very important things, right? So he probably smelled real bad, right? But the father doesn't see that. He doesn't smell that. He doesn't see the one who's insulted him the most, like the person he should probably be the most angry at. He doesn't see that. And instead, he is filled with compassion, right? Because he sees the son is coming home. He doesn't see that the son has disrespected him, that he's lost all of his money, because I'm sure he can visually see that. Like he's looking a little raggedy, right? He doesn't see that, but he sees that the son is coming home. That he has been humbled, that something has been working within him and on him, and he is coming home. And what does the father do? He runs to meet him. Which also, I think this is something that we sometimes skim over a little bit, right? Because we're like, okay, he runs to meet him. But if you're a man, and the stature of what he thinks his father would have been in, you know, has some wealth, probably be a little bit older, you didn't run, right? You didn't run. That was not something you did. Young boys run, old men do not run, right?
Right.
And sometimes right? Like, younger boys, they run around, they play around, right? But old men, we don't run around when you're an old man. Like, you're not the one running around. Right? And sometimes it's because of practicality for this father, right? This father was wearing long robes no one is going anywhere in this outfit. Like, you're not running with sandals on your feet and long dresses to trip you up. Like, that's not the running gear you want to wear. There's reasons why athletic companies make so much money selling us pants and shirts that are easily movable with. Because that is what you want to run in. You don't want to run in your nice Sunday best or your nice normal lounging clothes, right?
Right.
But he goes and he runs. And he runs when he is far off. So it's not just like he's running to the end of the driveway, right, where neighbors may or may not see, right? Sometimes you slip out of your house to grab the meal real quick. You're not really as embarrassed of how you might look, right? You're like, it's okay if my hair's a mess and I'm wearing like clothes I wouldn't normally be caught dead in public in because it's just the mailbox and back. Like, maybe my neighbors might judge me, but that's two people, right? Right? But he runs, and he's most likely running through town where everyone can see him. So not only is he running, he's running through town where everyone is most likely watching him and watching this old man run. And as he is running, he is picking up his robes and running, right? And that is not something you saw every day. Nor is that something you saw once a week. Like, I'm sure everyone in the town was like, he's finally lost it. That's it. It was nice knowing him, but he has finally lost it. Right? But he runs to meet the sun still. And when he gets there, the son, who has worked on his speech for the past miles that he has been walking, is finally like, okay, I'm going to say my speech. And he's starting to say it, and the father cuts him off, and he's like, quick, let's get a robe on you, let's put a ring on you, let's put sandals on your feet, and let's go home and party. Right? Which is not the response I guarantee you the son thought was going to happen. Right? You know, instead of just being like, okay, yeah, you can come work for me, that's cool, all's forgiven. The father puts a robe on him, puts a ring on him, puts shoes on his feet, right? Those are signs of status. That wasn't just anything. Like, if you had shoes on your feet, you were a pretty cool dude and you were pretty wealthy. Like, because otherwise you'd just be running around barefoot. You know, no harm, no foul, right? But he doesn't do that. He gives him the best, and he tells his servants to kill the fattened calf, and let's have a feast and celebrate, because this son of mine was dead, and he is alive again, and he was lost, and he was found. And so they begin to celebrate, right? And I always love reading this story, because there's so many people I feel like I personally can identify with, right? A lot of times, I feel like I'm the prodigal son. Maybe it's because I'm the youngest, right? I was the troublemaker. I was the one who didn't like to listen all the time. My brother was the elder brother. He was steadfast. He was a listener. I liked to live a little wild, right? Right? I didn't always make the best decisions, right? Or sometimes we find ourselves as the elder brother because, you know, maybe we were the steadfast ones. Maybe we were the ones who have always been in church, always been raised in church. We follow the rules. We are those people. If you are those people, God bless y'all. I need to learn from y'all, right? But sometimes, you know, we are those people. Like, those are usually like the people we identify most with, right? You're either the younger son or you're the elder son. But what if we were the father, right? What if we were the father? What if we were the father who ran out to meet people where they were, right? Could you imagine what that would be like? Because I know we are all guilty of this, me a lot of times, right? Sometimes I'm like, well, I will tell people about the love of Jesus Christ if they come to you on Sunday or Wednesday. I'm open, here are my office hours, you can call me, text me, meet me if you want to reach me. But like, this is the time I will talk to you about the love of Jesus Christ. And so please come to me and I will share that with you all you want. I can talk to them in the face, right? And sometimes we're super guilty about that because we're like, we want people here, we want people to worship with us, and like, we want to share that love of Jesus Christ, right? Like, the sense I get from all of y'all is like, you are passionate about people and community and sharing that love, right? But sometimes we forget that, like, we're the ones who have to go out and do it, right? Like, please, God, like, let someone wake up, let them wake up in time, they get dressed and ready, and they magically get in their car, and their car magically pulls into this parking lot, and they're magically here at 10:15, and they magically find their way in here, and they just sit, and they're just touched, and there we go, right? But that doesn't happen. I mean, it could, because, like, I'm not doubting God's power, but, like, God wasn't like, I'm going to do this all by myself, right? Jesus gave us this thing called the Great Commission, saying, go, don't just sit here, go, run to these people, tell these people, meet these people where they are, go out of your comfort zone, find these people, right? Go bring them this good news, go put the robe on them, put shoes on their feet, give them the ring, right? Go meet these people, whether they have hurt you personally or you don't really know, or their messy lives or whatever, just go, right? But it's not easy. Like, I know it's not easy because, again, sometimes I'm like, well, youth is on Wednesdays from 2 to 5. I would love to see you there, right? And, like, I did my job, right? Like, but no, right? And sometimes we get angry like the elder brother. Right? Sometimes we're like, we have been here, we have been doing this work, we have been listening to you, God, and we don't really get a lot of reward, but we don't really ask for a lot, so it's okay. But like, what the heck? What the heck? We've been doing all this, we've been listening, we've been staying steadfast, and you're throwing a party because someone who has listened about 0.1% of the time has finally decided to listen. Like, it's like saying we're throwing a party for the kid that always talks and interrupts in your classroom, or like the person that never shows up to work on time. We're gonna throw them a party for being employee of the month. Like, you don't do that. I mean, if you do, like, who knows? But I mean, we don't do that, right? Or there's this anxiety in us, right? Sometimes we're like, okay, we really want people to come, we really want the church to grow, we really want to be the body of Christ, but that requires change, and I don't know if I'm okay with that. Like, is the time going to move from 10:30 worship because I have my lunch right afterwards and we go have brunch? Or is the music going to change because I really like how the choir is right now and the praise team, and I'm not sure if I can handle 3 choir songs and no praise team songs, or 3 praise team songs and no choir songs, right? And sometimes we like focus on these things because we're like, that would be super great if new people came, but like new people have ideas, and I don't know about that, right? Like, I don't know about that, because if they have ideas, then maybe my ideas won't be as important, right? Sometimes there's that anxiety, right? But I think the beauty of this is when the elder son comes to the father and he's angry with him and he's telling him, like, I have listened, I have listened, I have listened, but the father replies to him with this: my son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And I think this is a great message, especially if you're feeling some of that anxiety, right? Because we're always scared, like, our ideas aren't going to matter anymore. New people are going to come in, they're going to have a new perspective, a fresh perspective, and everything's going to change, because sometimes we just need change, right? But what I say doesn't matter anymore. But God doesn't say that, right? The Father doesn't say that. The Father says, you still have your seat at the table. The table is still there, you're still there, your seat's still there, but we're building a longer table, and we're pulling up some more seats. We're going to pull up some fold-up chairs, some camp chairs, maybe a nice recliner here or there, right? The table is still there, and your seat is still there, and you can sit in the same seat like you sit sometimes in the same pew seat, right? Like, your seat is still there. It's not going to move, but we're going to build a little bit of a longer table so some more people can have a seat. And so everything matters, right? Or maybe that's not your problem at all. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm totally up for like someone coming and sitting down next to me, right? But sometimes you might be like, I have been trying, Savannah. And like, you are preaching to the choir. We all know we've been trying, and nothing is working. Like, I've been meeting people where they are. I've been meeting people in the mess. I've been running towards them, but they're not running back, and they're actually running away. And like, what is going on? And it's just not working, right? And so there's this saying a lot of children's ministers and youth ministers say, and it goes like this: we plant seeds, we don't plant trees. As much as I would love to plant a tree, every time a kid sees me, and I would just like be able to say like the one key phrase that like helps them discover Jesus Christ's love for them, and they're just like, hallelujah, I've accepted God now, and I feel like, yay, 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 right? And have that celebration with them. I don't know what that phrase is. If you know what it is, please let me know, because I'm always taking suggestions on that. But like, I don't have that key phrase, and like, I'm sure some of you guys are also like, I don't have it either, so I hope she doesn't call on me. Right? Like, there's not that one key phrase that you can say, bada bing, bada boom, like, I am saved. But you can plant seeds, right? You can love people. You can run to people, and even if they are maybe running away and they're maybe still not there yet, you can still show them love. You can still meet them in their mess, right? You can plant seeds, but you can't plant trees. Like, trees to grow to be as big as they are, or as beautiful or as magnificent as they are in a day. Like those redwoods out in California and where over there, they didn't grow magically one day and they were like, we have this huge forest of trees that are all a day old. Like, no, those are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, right? They didn't just magically become that way, right? So sometimes it takes time, right? Sometimes you just have to plant the seeds when you're running to meet people, and you're just planting the seeds. And I want to leave you with this one last story. A couple of weeks ago, it was a big news story. There was something that was discovered again, right? This pair of ruby slippers that had been in the museum, I think in Minnesota, where Judy Garland was from, had been stolen. They had been stolen, and they had been missing for 12 years. For 12 years. I don't know about you, but that is a long time in my perspective. And if I had lost something for 12 years, I would have just assumed to cut ties and not look for it anymore, because I can go in a cold case file. We're probably not going to find it. Right? 12 years is a long, long time for something to be missing. But recently, they had been getting some leads, and they had discovered these slippers, right? After 12 long years, these ruby red slippers that Dorothy clicked her heels in and said, there's no place like home, there's no place like home, there's no place like home, they have finally found their home again in her hometown, right? And I think that speaks volumes, because sometimes it does take 12 years. Sometimes it takes 100 years, right? Because some of us are stubborn, and we think we're right, and we'd rather not come to our senses and admit we're wrong. Right, so sometimes it takes those long years. You know, it could take 12 days for someone, it could take 12 weeks, but sometimes it takes 12 years, right? But it's not our job to like wait for those 12 years to happen. It's our job to plant seeds during those 12 years, to keep meeting them during those 12 years, to keep searching. Like the FBI had kept searching for these 12 years, because they could have filed it away, and they could have put it in a box and forgotten about it until something fell on their desk in front of them. But they didn't. They kept up the search. There were people searching for 12 years for these slippers, and they finally found their way home. So I guess my question for you is, who can you, or how can you embrace someone who is coming home? Right? Because there really is no place like home. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all of the amazing blessings you have given us. Thank you for calling us home. And please help us as we run to embrace others who are in desperate, desperate need of a place to call home as well. Thank you for all of the things that you have done for us, whether they have been seen or unseen. And please let us give a portion of those blessings back to you offering. Amen.